He's a former presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, a lawyer, and he was in the 2023 election. We have joining us Barrister Adewole Adebayo. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It is time that we talk about this country, the country that you once said Nigerians should employ you as the CEO to make things comfortable for them. But we have seen in the last 1 week, it has not been easy. From hiking fuel price to what some persons are saying, intimidation and harassment of voice of dissent. So what does this tell of our democracy?
Well, it's not unusual because democracy is a concept and it's a flexible concept. And the texture of it is under pressure from different directions. Those who are in government have some powers given to them by the people. And sometimes they don't know the limits of these powers. And they go beyond. And the reaction from other institutions and the general public will also contain that. So democracy is a pressure cooker. So the food in the pressure cooker cooks well because of the heat inside the pressure cooker trying to escape, and the pressure cooker keeping it inside. That's what makes you to have that balance. That's why you're able to have pressure cooker working for you. So democracy is like that. It's never a concluded argument. So, and as different characters attain power, they bring different manifestations. So that's what you see. And so whether it concerns fuel price increase, that is one debate that we should put an end to, because electorally we've decided that we're going to vote for those who said they will remove subsidy. And the implication of it now is the feedback we are getting from the market and feedback we are getting from the people who are experiencing it. So if the people change their mind, given the experience they are going through, when they have the next opportunity, they will put that into consideration. With respect to what is happening with law enforcement, especially with respect to the arrest of the Labour leader, Mr. Adewole, and the invasion, as it was, of the Office
SERAP.
of the Social and Economic Rights Action Program, SERAP, I think three things we need to know clearly. One, despite being in democracy and notwithstanding politics, law enforcement must do their work. So there is no debating that if you are a Labour leader, run an NGO, presidential candidate, someone in government, the police, law enforcement agencies have the right to interact with you where they think you have broken the law. So that is not what we are complaining about. But there is the rule of law. There's a process for doing things. And especially the timing, when you are doing something at a time when it looks like there's a conflict with the government over policy issues or other issues, law enforcement should try to be above board. And I won't second guess them, but I don't think that they had reasonable ground to believe that Mr. Adewole was running away from Nigeria forever. So if he was going for a conference, yes, if you are invited by law enforcement to come, you are supposed to go. But law enforcement do have a right, they have a duty to send reminders.
Yeah.
So if you don't come, they send you a second reminder. And if he travels for an international engagement where he's representing Nigeria, they should let him go and do his function. And when he returns, they'll send another reminder. If he doesn't come, they get a court order and have him brought to them. So that is what you should do. With respect to SERAP, I've listened to after I issued my own publication on it, or my opinion on it, where I said they need to give explanation, I was happy to see that they gave explanation, but listening to the explanation, there's no good reason stated in there. I don't know if they are keeping some things because of investigation, but there's no good reason for stalking them, going to their offices like that. Investigation these days, if you are doing them genuinely, not to intimidate people or to harass them, there are better ways to do it. And I must say something clearly, which you must understand. When you run an NGO all over the world, it's the duty of the law enforcement to watch you, because NGOs are special purpose vehicles that international spies, foreign spies use to penetrate a country. And I'm sure you read the news where the FBI in America now is prosecuting some NGOs in America who got money from Russia. And so people want to undermine your democracy, can use any institution to do it. So NGOs should not be an exception if there's a suspicion. However, there are 3 steps that you take. One, if you think that an NGO is being infiltrated by foreign elements, you try to alert them, because they may not know. They may not know. They may think, okay, this person funding us has similar interests as we do have, but there may be other interests that they don't know about, so you can let them know. Second, if you think that they are complicit in working against the national security or national interest, you do your investigation districtly, and you let an independent agency like the judiciary to be aware of it. And thirdly, try as much as possible to give confidence to the civil society that the law enforcement is not being used to support the government of the day in its politics. And one of the things I had in mind as president was to stop the police and DSS from interacting with the government, from following politicians around. That's why in the US we have the Secret Service. The Secret Service does not investigate crimes, follow you around, but their job is to protect the VIPs.
Okay.
Now, the FBI doesn't protect the VIPs. It just does law enforcement, except if the life of a VIP is in danger, they can alert police or other people to say, go and do something to protect them. So we should separate those who follow politicians all around from those who actually have to enforce the law, because that way there is no suspicion. Because there are 2 extremes. One extreme is to say, if you are in politics like me, then police should not touch you. So even if you commit an offense, police should just say, oh, because it's a politician, let's leave him. No, it can't happen that way. On the other hand, you don't want police to become a tool of politics or a tool of harassing people, which is essentially what they have become over time. And the same thing with the DSS. It shouldn't be the case. And we can't go back to the days of Abacha, where government will say, well, if you are irritating us, then we'll look for you and harass you. We can't do that in a democracy. I know that even under President Goodluck Jonathan, there used to be a lady called Marilyn Oga, who gave a black face to the DSS, because anybody who was opposed to President Jonathan's policy, she would start abusing them, going after them, harassing them. And I think that era went away. And I think the Buhari's era, apart from some occasional instances, they try to keep away from overt political activities like that. So I think the new DG, DSS should do what is right.
But don't you think that, because that's what some persons are saying, that what happened these few days is just to tell Nigerians that there's a new sheriff, there's a new boss with the state security services?
No, I think the new sheriff is welcome, but I think he should focus on Boko Haram, bandits, kidnappers, and such other things, and probably also the criminals who are inside government, to try to, do his work there.
But that's even the most critical question in the minds of most Nigerians.
Yes.
You mentioned criminals in government.
Yes.
These criminals, in quotes, are not, they don't have respect for the law.
Yes.
And that's the challenge we have in Nigeria today. The judiciary is our problem. Don't you think so?
Well, we have our own problems in many ways, because it's Nigerians that go to the judiciary. Judiciary has had some black eyes in recent times, and one of the areas that I had hoped to make an adjustment if I was president, if I ever become president, is to see that the judiciary doesn't deal with election matters as well. That we have a constitutional court. That constitutional court, they don't do any other thing other than anything that has to do with politics. And then when politics is over, they go and rest. Just the way we have industrial court. So that is why these days you don't find Labour Congress, anybody having problem with the regular courts, because they know their matter goes to the industrial court. So if you have a constitutional court, as purely to deal with election matters and similar issues, then the judiciary on its own will have a better chance of self-redemption. So because there's no one, I'm a member of the bar,
yes.
I'm a servant in the judiciary, and I have the duty to protect the integrity of the judiciary, even when I'm not happy with the judgment. But my duty also includes to give critical feedback to the judiciary when there's a little slip-up, you know. So I may not do it on television, I may also do it on television sometimes, but the idea is that we need to protect institutions. Even those who are in DSS now, they need SERAP, because they will not be there forever. Everybody needs human rights. And SERAP is a laudable organization. I have a lot of respect for SERAP, and I encourage what they are doing, and everybody should encourage what they are doing. And I believe even President Tinubu, in his private life, had occasionally used references that relate to the work done by SERAP to address issues with the previous government. So all of us have a duty to let the civil society breathe, but with some guidance from law enforcement, because I cannot tell you that I don't know that there are hostile interests in Nigeria,
yes.
Who come from abroad, and they use our institutions against us. Of course, they use our government officials against us as well. So when you are looking at whether NGOs, civil groups are being sponsored from abroad, you also look at our oil companies are from abroad, and they are controlling our economy. Our bankers receive money from abroad. Our government goes abroad every time looking for foreign investors. So we are all dealing with people abroad.
Too.
So dealing with people abroad is not a crime on its own. It's just that we have to have a national ethic, whereby we guide our people and say, if you are collecting money from foreign agents, you are collaborating with them, they come in any form in which they come. If we see what is wrong, we will interact with you. So it should be a friendly thing, not in the heat of when you have a dispute with the government. It should be a general program where there's a kind of counseling given to NGOs, so that if you are fighting over issue of environment, social and economic rights, any other issue, you don't get used against your own country by foreign elements. Right. So it's something with our military. The way they go and get visas, send their children abroad to school, and all those things are vulnerabilities. So law enforcement can deal with that. The State Department, Department of State Security can deal with that. NIA can have, Nigerian Intelligence Agency can have information from abroad and domesticate it through our domestic law enforcement.
But we won't have these challenges, these visible challenges of possible interference from the foreign body if there are no cracks in our democracy. Because you have talked about criminals in government. Yes. I like that term. We can't overrule the fact that they have criminal-minded people that are in government, yes. Not just in this government, yes. In other governments and in government to come. Yes. But how do we select that? Because what Nigeria is going through now is tough. Aside what is happening now, we have also seen the side effect of hiking petrol price, and nobody knows where this price will get to. I heard just this morning that the thing is still moving up to 1,700 per litre. It all depends on market forces, according to NNPCL. But we still need to consider the fact that it was bread, the price of bread, and the increase in tax that caused war in some of these foreign countries, which we have read. We saw what happened during the Arab Spring. Something very little can become a wildfire. But what would you advise government at this critical time to do? Because Nigeria is very vulnerable now. The people are not happy, probably because they don't have understanding of what is going on. Nobody is interacting with them. That's one challenge on one side. So what would you advise government as well as the people?
You see, every democracy has cracks. It's not a perfect system. And say it's not a perfect system, it's not an excuse to be sloppy about it. You need leadership. But whether your country is top tier, whether your country has been there forever, there are enemies and interests in the international or the international scene. So you will see the investigation by the FBI, by the US Congress, as to whether Russia was influencing their elections.
Yes.
And whether they are using people, and many generals. You could see that National Security Advisor to President Trump was fired because they said he was, he was exposed to as an agent of a foreign or hostile government. This happens all the time. It doesn't matter how perfect your government is, the foreign interests will want to enter your country. More so, we have our own fault lines.
Yes.
So, and when we are electing leaders, we choose leaders who can protect us. Not only protect the people, protect our institutions, and protect the state. Because there is, apart from the government, which changes from time to time, there is the state called the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has continuity. And institutions like DSS, NIA, DMI, many of them, are not to serve the government of the day. They are to protect the state. Because it could come, it's conceivable that the enemy of the country can be the president himself. Mm. There are countries that have discovered that even their own president is an enemy of the state and is being used by foreign people or somehow has fallen off the wagon. So they try their best to use other institutions to contain. That's why we have 3 branches of government. That's why there's an impeachment clause in the Constitution.
Yes.
So if we see that there is a fault line somewhere, we cover it. What is happening in Nigeria is that we need leadership. With respect to fuel price, we have 2 regimes. A regime where we treat it as a national security, a national need. And that way, government will guarantee that it doesn't go beyond certain level. That's why subsidy was a tool. There are other tools, including building refineries, increasing capacity, including shifting away from excessive reliance on petroleum products for day-to-day activities, including use of solar and all of that. However, there's another school that says, look, it's not such an important commodity. We shouldn't waste all our money on it. The money for the bridges, for other things, why should we spend it on making the price to be a certain level? Take it to the market forces. That is the side that APC, PDP, and Labour belong to the last election, and that's the side that got the most elections. So having entered that free market thing, the travel to the top or higher prices relates to how dollar performs. Okay. Because the commodity is, that's why there's something called petrodollar in the international finance language. So dollar and crude oil travel in the same direction. And when you refine the product to get petrol, diesel, whatever you get, you even have additional investment in dollars. So that is why in Nigeria, for now, in the foreseeable future, if the government continues this policy, don't expect the price to come down. One thing is certain, the price cannot remain constant. So there is no guarantee anymore. So if you go to the petrol pump or diesel pump machine and you see a price, that's the price for that moment.
Yes, it can change tomorrow.
It can change tomorrow, so I don't need to go on riot and all that for that. You can organize your politics in such a way that if you think that the way it's traveling is affecting you, you can now put other people in government who would find other solutions or put pressure on the government through lawful means to see that they change the policy. But individually, try as much as possible to not give yourself hypertension over it, and not to make your life depend on it, and to try as much as possible, where it's possible, to reduce your consumption and reliance on petrol. If you think that the price was stable before, it's not going to be stable now.
At all. But it's not easy getting other means of power to...
Not at all. Not at all. It's hard. That is where government needs to do its own part. But the way the government is going now, they are signaling to the people that, look, that's not their priority. Their priority is to try to balance their books. Of course, they are spending a lot of money they shouldn't be spending.
On personal things.
Personnel costs,
yes.
On expensive aircraft and other things. And some projects that maybe they're overpriced, they need to look at those projects. They're overpriced, like the Lagos-Calabar Highway. Yes. I haven't seen the bid paper, but what I read in the media, if those things are accurate, is overpriced. So many other changes we can make. But Nigerians should understand that all these institutions belong to us. DSS is not an enemy. Police is not an enemy. The government is not an enemy. They are all products. So you elect President Tinubu, he appoints Ajayi. So Ajayi is still an appointee of your electee. So they are also part of your government. But we need to make sure that other institutions and solid voices control our security personnel. They should not worship people in government. They don't work for the President Tinubu. They work for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And government will change, whether they like it or not. Now, but what will not change is the country. And we should be patriotic and respect human rights.
Thank you so much. We'll be speaking with the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the 2023 presidential election in Nigeria. And he's still aspiring. He has said he won't give up until Nigeria see him fit to become the president of Nigeria. He's also a lawyer. He's also a media mogul and barrister Adewole Adebayo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.